So I think of all of the skills that will be developed, this is probably the one where when you come to stage 2 you'll be least able to do, because it requires to some extent some experience. So we know we've got, for the most part, we're going to have 3 things to look at. Are we going to be looking at club path, club head, club face, or plane? We're going to be looking at one of those 3 things. So when we look at the goal, the short-term goal, we're going to look for the one thing that's going to make the most difference that we can do. And the important thing for me is not that you're able to pick the most important thing, but that you can visualize the cause and effect of what it is that you're going to do. So in other words, they say they want a draw, to hit a draw. You know that the club face is opening between impact and separation. So instead you've got to get that club face to close through impact and separation. So you've decided that your work is going to be on the club face, on closing the club face, and then how is the drill, work or lesson that you've chosen going to affect that outcome? Is it linked to that outcome? So, you know, so when people want more consistency with outcome, then that's going to be more likely looking at their rhythm, their balance, their swing speed, their 3-to-1 ratio. So it's having the ability to look at what they've got, what they want instead, and then draw a cause and effect between what you're going to do, and be able to write that in the sheets that you've got in your appendix for the lesson. So it's your ability to be able to draw a correct, not necessarily draw a parallel, draw a relationship between what you've decided to and what you're going to do, whether it's the most important thing you could have done or not. As long as it's something that's going to make a difference to that goal, then that's what you need to do. When we're looking at that in the longer term, then there might be, certainly if you're in the lessons for life, then that chosen the correct improvement might be in the 5 different subjects. It might be in putting, chipping, pitching, full swing, and course management, and so on and so forth. So choosing that correct improvement is also something that you don't have to worry about so much when you're full-time coaching or lessons for life, because you will have your buddy coach, your mentor, or me, or the people that are in my collaboration team to consult with if you're not sure of that. As long as you have done your lesson preparation and you've thoroughly discussed with it everything they want, why they want it, we know, because you've put the film there, the piece of video on the V1 software, we can look at it and we can tell you what it is, what the correct improvement that you should be doing, and even how to do it. And then you've got to do the hard work of actually processing that and making it happen, because that's where the real work is. So now we're going to move on to the benchmark, but obviously in choosing the correct improvement, when you do that, you've also got to be able to visualize, imagine, experience in the future the benchmark. So whether or not at this moment you know exactly what the benchmark is, i.e. how I've described it in the manual, how you've seen it in the videos, there's probably a 1 in 1,000 chance that you have understood fully every part of the technical part of benchmarks, and extremely doubtful that you understand the full implications. But if there is just one thing, on this whole training that could link everything, it's the benchmark. So it's certainly, as far as the stage 2, passing that exam, when you come, it is absolutely 100% essential that you fully understand what a benchmark is, the importance of the benchmark, and that you can produce a benchmark as easy as possible. I'm trying to think of it as easy as falling off a log, I think was one of the expressions. So it should be absolutely, completely and utterly second nature by the time you get there. And that's why when I did the video a couple of weeks ago, when I put the essential philosophies and essential things to do, it was be able to have written at least 50 benchmarks before, so that you're fully au fait with what the benchmark is and what it does and how and why it has such an effect on the points that you get within lesson structure. Because it's almost impossible to nail the necessary marks at the end of this exam, the 2,000 marks, unless you have set a correct benchmark. It brings everything together. Now, I won't go past benchmarks today, and I'm not going to go past 20 minutes talking about benchmarks, because I've only got 20 minutes recording on the HD video, although I've got this recording on any meeting and we'll be able to pass that on in the morning. So, first of all, the benchmark is a process goal rather than an outcome goal. Now, when it comes to guaranteeing that each and every lesson is a success, we cannot guarantee success if we're looking at outcome goals. We can only guarantee the success if they're in process. So first of all, when we open the mics, I want everybody to tell me that they understand completely what the difference is between those two types of goal. And as often as possible, we want to be working in process. If we can guarantee that every single lesson is a success and the client is going to go away agreeing that that lesson was a success, when you look at, for some of you that have done the interviews in stage 1, where you find out people's experience of lessons and found out all that unhappiness and lack of success, you'll realise why it's important. Because not only are these people telling you that the lesson overall wasn't a success, if they've told you, they've gone and told 20 of their friends. Because the kind of scenario is, if something goes wrong with customer service, we tend to tell about 20 people. When something goes right, we tend to tell 1 people. So there's some tapes on this, but what we're saying here is that first of all, you need to make sure that you do everything right. So you're going to take advantage of the fact that they're not going to tell the 20 people how bad you are, but they're going to tell 1 person how good you are. And then get people to affirm that they're going to tell 20 people how good that you are, the same as they were going to tell people how bad you were. So once we understand that it's our way of making sure that every lesson is a success, once we understand that it's a process goal and a benchmark goal, then we can start to understand what a benchmark looks like. So what the benchmark is the description of the next 20 minutes that's or 18 minutes that's about to unfold in your 30-minute lesson, or the next 2 hours that's going to evolve within your 2 or 4 hour lesson. So in other words, we're future pacing the whole event of the lesson. We are, if you like, inoculating what the behaviour. We're laying a clear path of what it's going to look like, what it's going to sound like, what it's going to feel like, how we're going to judge it, how we're going to feed back to it, how we are going to make sure we hardly have to think again for the next 18 minutes. We don't have to make up excuses, make up stories, fill in the time. So again, I think that it guarantees that we're working. So it guarantees that client's going to get 18 minutes hard work, hard endeavour, doing exactly what they've agreed to do without any basis in getting an outcome. So I'm certainly, when I stop talking about benchmarks, and then I'm going to ask various of you to give me benchmarks that you've currently done from your experience, either through working with your buddy client or your buddy coach. So let's say the benchmark might be on freeze frame, backswing, impact and follow through. And this is a benchmark that we might use if we had a complete beginner. It was just one of those things you could use for a complete beginner. It could be one of those things that you'd use if every single thing in the golf swing was wrong. So there wasn't one thing that was right, from posture, setup, backswing, impact, follow through. You might just go straight into benchmarks. So the benchmark might be, let's just do a benchmark for backswing. So let's say that in this particular instance, because the other one was going to be a little bit too long-winded as I thought about it, let's just say that somebody has huge arm separation, has a bent left wrist and a flat right wrist, and there's no connection between the body and it's an overswing. So we're going to say to them, okay, we've both looked at the video, we've noticed some things on your backswing, and we see that you haven't got too much connection with the body and you haven't got too much awareness of the correct position. So what we're going to do is we're going to enact a little procedure called freeze frame backswing. Now what's going to happen is I'm going to ask you to go to the top of the to the top of the swing and stop. Once you get to the top of the swing and you stopped, then I'm going to come along and I'm going to move you around and manipulate you until you get into exactly the right position. Once you've got into that right position, then I'm going to ask you to shut your eyes and breathe in and out 3 to 5 times until you notice that you're completely relaxed in that position. Once you're completely relaxed in that position, I'm going to ask you to say backswing. Once you've done that, I'm going to ask you to come back into your address position without hitting the ball and do that whole process over again. Once we've done that process 21 times and it could or could not get easier as we go, but certainly what I don't want you to do at any time is to try and get into these positions. I just want you to notice what you notice when you're in that position, relaxed, and you've said backswing. So when you come back down into that progression, and we've done that 21 times, then I'm going to ask you, I'm going to put before you 4 golf balls. I'm going to ask you to address the first golf ball, and then I'm going to ask you to say backswing. When I give that instruction, backswing, you are going to go to the top of your swing, come down and hit that ball. As soon as you've hit the ball, you're going to go to the next ball and do exactly the same time until you've hit all 4 balls, probably within the space of 20 seconds at most. Once we've done that exercise, we're going to review the positions that you're now into on the video and discuss the next line of action. That will probably take about 20 to 25 minutes, and that will be it for that lesson. If we did that, are you interested to see the results you might get both from the pictures of the swings and the balls that you hit? And they're probably going to go, yes. And that's your benchmark for that particular lesson. Now, all of these benchmarks are going to be different, but of course, the more experience that you've got, the more they're going to become very similar to you, and you're going to know exactly what to do, where the inoculations are, where it might not go well, and you've got second or third plans that you also have to future pace. So, how is the benchmark different when we go into the long-term coaching, the lessons for life coaching when you're fully qualified? Well, to some degree, they won't change at all. But by definition, because you're working with these clients for a long time, they'll be very used to that process. What I can tell you is that anytime you don't do that, then I guarantee if the lesson doesn't come up as a success, it's because you haven't done it. But I would say that only 50% of the time now I have to or need to use a benchmark for what I do, because I'm there for 4 hours, and I might do little chunks of something, little changes, but basically because they're there for 4 hours, they trust me, because I'm experienced enough to know that I have to work to encourage those changes. I have to get them to feedback to become aware. Then they're already now trained, and I trained myself a long while ago that I never stop working, the whole time that I'm in that lesson. That's something that you've got to learn, because your experience is a lot of the time is just asking, is the pro asking you to hit another shot, and another shot. Okay, so I think that what I'm going to do now, I'm going to keep recording on the camera as long as it goes, but I'm going to open up the floor now for questions on either of those 2 important subjects. So that's how to choose the correct improvement and how to set the benchmark. And we're very much obviously trying to help those guys that are about to do stage 2 in Florida, but of course I'm very open to questions from people like Keith and Andrew and Marcel for how they fit into those coaches that are currently coaching. So please, let's have your questions, especially obviously Gary, Helen, Torsten, and anybody else that's coming to Orlando.